Hello and welcome. I'm Christine Perey, and I'm happy to host this fireside chat with Jonathan Hale of Wonderland Engine. We're going to be talking about WebXR and the standards that are part of an ecosystem, a constellation of standards we've heard them called. Jonathan, please introduce yourself and tell me why you're here.
Yeah, thanks, Christine. I'm the founder of Wonderland Engine. We build a development platform for XR on the web. That's AR and VR on the web, obviously. And hopefully today I'll tell you a bit why you shouldn't sleep on the web, just like the internet was a large thing. And yeah, let's see what happens.
Okay, good. Yeah. So why is it relevant now? There's been a lot of people who are pessimistic about web-based AR. They say it's not ready for prime time things. Why is it relevant to you now and to our
Mhm.
audience?
So I think WebXR as a standard is relevant more than ever for WebAR because it really allows browsers to produce the best implementation for AR tracking on the web. Literally an implementation that is indistinguishable from native AR, right? And that can only happen if we find a common standard that all browsers kind of agree on implementing. And then, of course, browsers need to implement that. But I believe that is the way to get high quality AR on the web.
And easy distribution. I think that's another component is um, how to get people who don't have to download an app. They don't have to go to an app store. There's just many web-based principles and concepts. But people have
Absolutely.
been pessimistic because they say it's not fast enough. The performance has been an issue. Can you talk a
Yeah.
little bit about why that's not an issue for you now?
Yeah, unfortunately, the web had indeed quite a bad reputation around like kind of 3D rendering on the web can't be as fast and these things. That's because the browser adds a lot of overhead on basically all the API that you use to communicate with the GPU. At Wonderland, we actually designed the engine around all of these overheads and all of these kind of restrictions that you have on the web. And we were able to show that for even VR headsets, we can achieve the native performance of the device through the browser. Because if you think about it, like the GPU underneath is the same, right? So if you send the GPU a certain program to execute it, then it's just going to execute it as fast as possible. The only thing that is slow is really sending it to the GPU. And if you do this like in times where you have the time during loading and these kind of things, then you might circumvent a lot of that. It's like a rough oversimplification of what needs to happen, but that's kind of like how you can think about it. The device underneath is really not restricted by the browser in any way.
So is WebGPU a standard? Is it a technology? Explain to us more what WebGPU is.
Okay, so WebGPU is they call it the next gen graphics API for the browser. It allows websites to access functionality of the GPU, of the hardware for the graphics processing, drawing pixels, but also maybe executing AI models and these kind of things. So really using the GPU as a general processing unit.
Is there
Um,
another standard? Is there a Kronos Group standard that's
Correct.
similar
Yes,
to
absolutely.
WebGPU? And who standardized WebGPU? Is that a W3C standard like WebXR?
So WebGL is the current standard and the one that is most commonly available on all devices, and therefore the current target for basically any graphics application on the web right now. And WebGPU is trying to align more to modern graphics features and how modern graphics APIs like Vulkan, that is also a Kronos standard, works. But WebGL basically has been doing a great job as the first wave of graphics APIs to kind of like give websites access to the GPU such that they can have high performant rendering.
Well, is it a standard? Is WebGPU a standard is it from the W3C or is it, we know WebGL is a Kronos standard. Vulkan is for native applications, I believe. So tell me about where will I go to find the WebGPU specification?
Yes, so the WebGPU is by the W3C working group. and they are working on standardizing it. I don't know if it's like fully standardized as in cannot be changed anymore, because obviously it is very new and they're trying to get it right. So it might, I don't actually know if it's officially a full standard already, but it is definitely going to be in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I think this is an important point that you're making, which is it's a progression, right? We don't just one day wake up and, there's the standard and it's implemented in all the devices and all the. It's not how it works, is it? There's
Unfortunately, no.
a beginning. There's a beginning, and then more adopters and more implementations, and there's some improvements. And so I think we're not quite at the beginning of a new trend. This is a trend that's been here. It's been in place, and now we're picking up momentum. Now, do you also do anything with WebXR? That's a Kronos standard OpenXR. I'm sorry, OpenXR, that exposes the capabilities of a device.
Yeah, so we don't directly work with OpenXR, but OpenXR is really important to us because browsers use it to implement the WebXR standard. So WebXR, again, is a W3C standard that is for browsers to implement, like Safari, Chrome, Firefox. And they will usually use OpenXR to kind of like make their browser as compatible as possible with all kind of VR devices and AR devices out there.
Perfect. Excellent. So, well, we've spoken about our enthusiasm and how standards are a component towards that goal of having an easy access, skipping all of the app stores and giving people the ability to click on a link, even within an experience, to launch another experience, right? So a person might use the Wonderland Engine to create experiences that are just a click away. Is that right?
Absolutely. I think the frictionless access to web applications is extremely important and one of the huge kind of benefits of the web here.
Yes. So we've talked about benefits and why the time is right, but what are the challenges that still face those who want to use WebXR to deliver web-based experiences? What are the challenges? And we can talk about the challenges for people who are in the hardware camp. I mean, are there glasses manufacturers who just say, we're going with web. We're going to put a really good browser that supports everything. Are there such headset or wearable device manufacturers that are very aligned with web-based principles?
Yeah, I believe that most smaller original equipment manufacturers are actually super interested in the web because it unlocks an entire existing ecosystem of content. So by just providing the browser, they all of a sudden have access to all of these web games out there already. And for example, there's a company called Igalia, which are building the open source browser Volvic, which emerged kind of from Firefox reality.
I remember.
And exactly. And they are doing a great job kind of onboarding as many original equipment manufacturers as possible. So if you are representing one, you can kind of reach out and get your device supported there fairly easily as well, because they do implement the WebXR standard and it allows Wonderland Engine to run on any of these kind of devices and all the apps built with it automatically as well. So absolutely.
So one of the challenges is to have devices that are compatible and that have pre-installed the necessary components. And it's probably no challenge for a device manufacturer to install that. I believe it's open source, so there's not a license, is there, to the device manufacturers? Do they have to pay a license for?
No, so they can actually adopt and customize the open source code for their device as well. The great benefit here is because they are usually working with the OpenXR standard, a great chance is that your device might already support OpenXR, and then it'll already be supported by some of these browsers kind of almost out of the box. So the kind of friction to
No,
get
yeah.
a browser supported is basically like super low and super easy to do.
And from a software development perspective, let's say I'm a developer and I want to make my experiences available on all platforms that have support for WebXR.
Mhm.
What are the challenges, or what do I need to do? Am I going to be going back to Unity? Am I going to be going to Unreal Engine? What are there many other choices,
Mhm.
aren't there?
Yeah, so I'm obviously building one, so it's a little bit hard to not be biased here.
Yes,
Unity does have an HTML5 target, so if your project is already based on Unity, you can try exporting the project through that. Unreal Engine does not support the web directly, unfortunately, so you will need to kind of rebuild in a powerful engine. If you're starting out your project, I recommend Wonderland Engine, of course, and we
that's a
can
good
even
choice. Yeah.
get your project from Unity ported over to Wonderland Engine, because we do care a lot about performance and want to give you the native performance in the browser. And we believe that's one of the biggest challenges that you might face otherwise. But there's a bunch of open source frameworks that you can use as well, from Babylon.js, A-Frame, 3JS. There's Play Canvas, which also provides a very nice workflow for like building 3D applications. But yeah, so if you want a very Unity-like workflow, go with Wonderland Engine. It's optimized for the web.
Really good. That's very good. And I think now Wonderland Engine, you're providing this development environment, if I understand correctly. Another thing I'm noticing a trend in terms of development environments is there's so many low code, no code
Mhm.
develop solutions out there.
Mhm.
Now for enterprise and industrial, it's tricky because people are they don't want to host anything outside of
Yeah.
their network. How does Wonderland Engine work, in terms of intranet, or do I need to connect to your services?
So Wonderland Engine is a application that you download and install, kind of like any other software, Photoshop or Blender or anything you might be using for 3D development already.
An
And it
SDK,
produces,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's exactly. And software SDK comes with a 3D editor, and it just packages in less than a second and optimizes all your assets in less than a second and produces a bunch of web files. So that's HTML, JavaScript, WebAssembly. And you can just host them whatever can host a static website. That might be Amazon AWS or GitLab Pages, any free hosting solution, or your internal intranet will be able to host that as well. So no restrictions at all.
Right. Okay, perfect. So those are concerns that when many people in industrial settings hear web, they
Mhm.
automatically think we're talking about the public web, and not their own own web implementations.
Mhm.
Okay,
I think
really
for
good.
enterprise, the web is amazing because you already have the browser as a very secure sandbox. And usually you need IT whitelisting of various software, and it's just a way bigger hurdle to go through all of that.
It
So,
really is. It's so true that this question of integration with existing systems, and if you already have a browser that supports WebXR internally certified, it's a no-brainer,
correct.
isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if the performance is equal to what we would see in native.
Yeah.
So those
And I
are
think
really good points.
Yeah, I think what you just mentioned, if the performance is equal, is one of the biggest unlocks, because I believe that just by design, the web is a better development platform. You publish one application, it runs everywhere. You can just access the deployed app really quickly. You're in control of deploying as much as you want. You don't go through third-party app stores. You don't have to pay fees there. You don't have to wait for curation, potentially like have no control over when is your release date. All of that is like, there's so many advantages, but that one thing that was basically unsolved was like, how is the performance is just not as on that same level. And we believe we fixed that and kind of unlock all of these advantages of the web for people.
So yeah, that's the breakthrough, if you will.
Exactly.
It is this maybe secret sauce that you've
Yes.
developed to take the most advantage of what's out there and to unlock these benefits of web-based experiences. Yeah, fantastic. Well, it was great to meet you in person at CES, and I think
Likewise.
you have a very, very exciting future ahead. You've already been involved in this field a very long time. I think you are an early proponent of web-based experiences, and well, thank you for that. I'm excited, looking forward to your future.
Likewise, thank you for the opportunity, Christine. It was a
It's
pleasure
my
talking to you.
pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye,
Bye-bye.
Jonathan.